Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Hour of Need.
Our Hour of Speed.
This is the newest game by the Sadler brothers, Blacklist Games, in their MDS system, their modular deck system.
It's a Sadler brothers game, all right.
Yeah. It's all right.
It's okay.
Like it's very.
These guys are good at all right games.
Well, no, because Street Masters and Brook City we really enjoy.
Yeah,
but
true.
And for some reason, this one just is kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Well, I have a few theories as to why that is. So, the system itself works, but there's a couple glaring issues. Well, that really, one of them, for me, isn't a fault of the game itself. One of them is. And I'll go over the one that is actually a fault. Their rulebook is atrociously bad.
Yeah.
I really, really do not like it.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this issue with Alter Quest. We played Alter Quest,
Yeah,
right?
I think we played all of their games.
Alter Quest is a fantasy one that has slowly grown on me.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I'm playing it correctly. The few times I played it, I wasn't doing it right. But at least that one's kind of in its own fantasy thing with its own system that still kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
Street Masters is kind of the beat 'em up, whatever, fighting game, insert fighting game here, Battletoads or whatever kind of style.
Right.
And then Brook City is the cop game.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all kind of unique in and of themselves. And this one is still like that because it's superheroes. But there has been a boom of superhero games, board games lately that, I'm getting ahead of myself. The rulebook is very bad because there are so many things that are just not clarified. And in a game like this where it's so modular, it's almost like they want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to overload you with rules, but because they don't overload you with rules, you have a lot of vagueness surrounding the game where it's like, so what does this mean? Okay, can I use this over here? Like, one of my cards, for example, is, place your figure adjacent to an enemy and deal that enemy 1 damage. Does that bypass defense? Whenever you're solving in a location, if you're solving specifically for the villain, does he also deal damage to you?
Right.
So, which, based off just it being an enemy, would be yes, but then it's like, well, fuck, we have to do 20 solve on him, then we have to do 20 damage to beat him, and it's just like, it almost feels like a little much, and I don't like the fact that things aren't concrete in their answers. This is definitely a better rulebook than Alter Quest, but that bar was so low, any improvement is, any effort is an improvement.
Yeah.
So, and that's just a negative on the game itself, but here's where I think that this game falters. For me, anyway.
Okay.
It's a beat-em-up style game, where you run around, you fight the villain, you fight minions and stuff like that. Well, I'd rather play Street Masters then. Because these are just generic heroes, like Belt, whatever, is supposed to be Daredevil. Judge is clearly Batman.
With tits?
Yeah, female Batman, Batwoman or
Yeah.
Batgirl. Or I don't know. But so it's like, okay, well, I can't get into the superhero theme because these aren't actual IP characters. So then they just come down to generic fighting kind of guys. Well, then I'd rather play Street Masters because that's clearly their baby. Like that box over there is all Street Master stuff.
Damn.
So they clearly have put way more effort into that one, and it works. You pick a stage, you pick a henchman, and you pick a... I don't remember the third deck that you shuffle into that one. So that one feels more like a beat-em-up. But then you go to the superhero side, and you're like, well, I'd rather play... I don't think I've had you play Marvel Champions. But that's kind of a pick a villain, pick a superhero, and then try and win that way.
Gotcha.
And that one is, well, it's IP characters. It's Marvel, and it's a phenomenal deck system. So now I'm just kind of in this weird gray area of, well, I don't really care about the fact that this is some generic superhero game, and it's worse than both games that I just basically would combine to make this. So then it's like, well, what's the point of this? So that's why it's just kind of whatever.
Kind of meh.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, definitely of the games that I have played from these guys, this is definitely the lowest of them that I, at least, first impression wise. Because I don't remember too much of Alter Quest. I remember really enjoying Brook City, and I really enjoyed Street Masters. And I mean, I kind of struggle with why. I mean, maybe because like they tried to make the boards more specific to the. I think they have a whole bunch of boards for this game.
They do, yes.
And
every issue you pick is,
and the issue just creates the board.
Yes,
which is neat, but then the board's kind of unimpressive. Right. I don't have I'm like, okay, I have a bunch of hexes I can move through the town. Great. So then it's just like it just kind of boils down to its core functions. I don't feel super thematic, I guess.
Yeah.
They kind of mix it up a little bit by doing solve versus fight.
Yeah.
And
yeah, which is another system for Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions, there's schemes, and you can either thwart, which is removing tokens, or you can attack. Like it's the same kind of system. That's why I'm definitely comparing this to that. And you're right. I mean, the board, as they did try to make it focused, they definitely wanted it to feel very comic booky.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's not just us fighting the villain. Like, because if you think about it, it's like, okay, like in this case, the run through we had Curtains. He's some elaborate magician, I guess. But then it's like, well, realistically, Judge and Belt could just beat the shit out of him. So they, of course, have to have perils or some other, generic bystanders that are kind of over the place that you can go out and save just to get these clue cards. Which, I don't know. I don't like the clue cards either. Like, I don't like the fact that your main source of healing is getting lucky on drawing a clue card that heals you. Your main source of increasing how many dice you roll
is also the
clue cards. And I mean, it's not like they're hard to get.
Right. And then there's the static damage issue where it's like, okay, you want to solve on this guy.
Right.
He's going to deal so much damage each time you do it.
Right.
And I suppose I was a little more frustrated from that because it's like my character has like a mode and I'm underwhelming the other effect if I'm not in specific mode.
Right.
And it seems like my guy's is focused on a bunch of attacks that are low dice, but I can do a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks if I'm, or like a bunch of solves, one or the other. Well, I guess they doesn't deal the static damage if you're fighting.
No.
So it's just when we're solving.
Right. Yeah. Whenever you fight them, it's just whatever damage you do, and then they're past their defense.
I suppose I with this game I kind of struggle with proper complaints about the game. I just have to say, like, as someone who's, I mean, I'm a little more experienced with board games, having played with you for 4 years. Is it 4 years?
Something like that. 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, damn. Because I knew you like a year before I met Marcy, and Marcy and me just hit our 4th year now.
So about
has
5
it been
years.
5 years?
Damn.
God damn, dude. Damn. God,
I get out of my house.
Get the fuck out. I can't look at you anymore. No.
You don't feel authentic anymore.
Oh shit. I don't know. It's just it doesn't really. I guess it's modular. I mean, there's lots of different. I mean, a lot of the praise that we threw at a lot of their other games also exists for this one. It's modular.
Yeah, you pick
all that.
I mean, they have 10 heroes.
Yeah.
And I think like 6 villains and maybe 10 issues.
Yeah, maybe they were thinking because the hero thing with Marvel doing so well in the theaters that like, oh, this is our cash in. Everyone else is doing. And we can just take our system that we know works, that we've done for 3 fucking games.
Yeah.
Let's do it in this theme.
Yeah, 100%. That is exactly, and that's why a lot of people actually didn't back this.
Gotcha.
Because they were like a lot of people are burned out on superheroes, and I understand it. I mean, there's a Marvel show or movie coming out every week. It feels like, and then I mean, you have other games. There's another one called Sentinels of the Multiverse, which is significantly older and I think is worse than this, but it has its own superhero style. Because they of course can't afford the IPs. Like Fantasy Flight, who makes Marvel Champions, can.
Yeah.
So that's how they're doing it. But then not this company, but these designers are working on another game called Freedom 5, which is another superhero game using the Sentinels of the Multiverse superheroes. in a more cooperative style. It's not modular like this, but so you have all these superhero games coming out that people are like, well, I don't want this, and it kind of comes down to, well, judge, belt, jury, whatever, wyvern, gem and ice, these characters that come out, which these are the Sadler brothers.
Oh.
I think they put them in all their games. Like they have characters designed, which is kind of funny. But so they're all kind of these heroes that you're like, yeah, you get to play them and you see how their decks are, and their decks. I mean, the deck system works perfectly fine.
Right. I mean, it's a perfectly functional game. Don't get me wrong.
I think it comes down to the fact that,
I'm like, if I'm going to get one of their games,
Yeah.
this isn't the one I'm going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all pretty similar.
Yeah.
They all do the same thing. I'm like, go
Yeah.
get Street Masters. That's the good one.
Yeah.
Brook City was a lot of fun.
Because it was so different. It
Yeah.
used the modular deck system, but in a different way. And I think that's where this MDS system is. It either is stale, if the games are too similar to each other. Mm-hmm. This is too close to Street Masters, and Street Masters is a cleaner, more functional game where the MDS is highlighted. Mm-hmm. And this one is just kind of like, yeah, we have these issues over here, but that's just kind of a weird issue deck that's kind of off on its own. And then, yeah, the villain has his own deck, so that's like a boss and Street Masters. So I think what it boils down to is, if you have the other games, the 3 we've mentioned, I don't see a need to own this.
Yeah, I mean, standalone, it's kind of flat.
Yeah.
I wish I had better criticisms for it. Because it's a very functional game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could put your own theme into it, like when we were describing combats and whatnot.
Right.
That's fun. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean...
It's also the fact
maybe
that...
it could have been fleshed out a little more with better story beats if they really wanted to go all in.
I will say I'm glad that they have those.
Yeah.
At least that makes it somewhat thematic that those are there. Funny enough, I didn't even realize on the back they do actually have a backstory on the villains.
Oh, cool.
And the heroes. Damn, I totally missed that.
Could have read those.
Because they're in they're in the issue guide, so you think this is just for your the issues that you pick. Mm-hmm. But here's the other thing: is all the expansions are technically standalone, so. You have, here's you as Belt, your complexity 1.
I'm so complex.
And then I think Judge and Jury is here, so Judge is also complexity 1, which makes sense. I mean, I like the fact that, they have the story stuff, so your characters you can learn a little bit more about, the villains you can learn a little bit more about, and then they do have little story beats based off the schemes to kind of make it a little bit more thematic, which I enjoy. I think that does kind of bring it out a little bit more. But in terms of the gameplay, the reason I wish the villain didn't just hop from one area to the next. It was it feels like we're running around the city and he's just going to these these panels, and we have to deal with his lackeys. Mm-hmm. They're kind of around, but even some of the lackeys just don't do a whole lot. They're just kind of around, and it's more just annoying than... I don't know. It's just kind of blah. And I can't really think of, any specific thing besides the fact that we take static damage when we scheme. I think that's kind of stupid. It would make more sense if we were scheming on a different plot. Mm-hmm. If we were trying to do the curtain call one, and he was nearby, and he damaged us for trying to do that. But it's well, why are we taking damage from him when we're actively trying to stop his thing? Mm-hmm. Because if I get some really cool ability that lets me solve multiple times, well, does he attack me each time, or is it just a one-time damage? It's just not clear. Mm-hmm. So it's for me to make any progress, that's 9 damage. Mm-hmm. If I do 3 solves because of a cool combo. So it feels like it halts the card synergy.
Yeah.
And if that's not how it's played, well, I can't find anywhere in the rulebook that says otherwise. So it's just he is an enemy, and therefore he damages just like everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Don't
Right.
have too much. It's pretty bland. I mean, yeah. I mean, these guys, they make working games that are entertaining.
Yeah.
Good modular deck system. But if you're going to play one of these, I would recommend one of their other games.
Yeah, if you're looking for, I guess it depends on what you're wanting. If you're wanting a superhero game and you don't like Marvel for some reason, like if someone were to come to me and be like, "Hey, could you recommend a superhero game?" I'd be like, "Yeah, Marvel Champions, or Marvel Legendary, or those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head." And it's like, well, I don't like Marvel, or I don't like deck builders, or I don't like, it's like, okay, well then I guess this. But then if they have any of their other games, it's like, well then don't bother, If they don't have Street Masters and they don't have like Brook City or any of those, then this one's probably a viable option because it would be so fresh. It would be a new modular deck system that you're like, oh man, I can combo any of these together.
Yeah. I suppose if you didn't have familiarity with their other games, and maybe that's why it's kind of hurting me here.
Right.
That I'm just kind of struggling. I'm like, it's like that's whatever.
I think I'd rather play one of their other games.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is always kind of rough whenever you are a fan, but that is kind of the downside when your entire game design is centered around one system. Then it's like, well, all your games are starting to feel the same. So this no longer has the allure of the MDS system. We're not like, ooh, it could be any combo. It's like, well, yeah, there are other games do that too. So why do I need this one?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think also gameplay is kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as fun. Like I didn't ever feel like Judge. I never felt like I was a badass. Like swooping into these plot scenes and defeating bystanders and then coming in and foiling the villain. I never felt that way. It felt like I was always just kind of struggling because, oh, well, we don't need to solve anymore, or I'm all about solving, but too bad I'm getting my ass beat while I'm trying to solve. So I guess I won't do that. Yeah. I mean, overall, that's pretty much it. I'm mainly upset that I just missed the reading the character stuff. Because it's like, oh man, we could have had more of me to read. But I guess, Curtains is a complexity 2.
Okay.
Curtains is a complexity 2, and the Century Heist was also complexity 2. So I wonder if that's also an issue, potentially, if we had 2 complexity 2 obstacles, the issue and Curtains, and 2 complexity 1 heroes. So it's like, I wonder if that actually has anything to do with it, if you need to have the same type of complexity. But maybe not. Maybe it's just like how hard these are to play versus how hard these are to overcome.
Yeah, I felt like it advanced incredibly rapidly.
Yeah.
The gameplay. I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of turns.
Right.
I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of stuff I could do.
And they try to, it seems like they try to balance that by letting you have free cards. Like, Wise Counsel doesn't have an action for me to do. Exhibit A doesn't have it.
But it's like, you burn through your 4 cards that you initially get, and then now, henceforth, short of the one that you get automatically, or if you get something that lets you draw and have an effect, you can draw 2 cards on your turn.
Yeah.
And you're not getting much else. Short of that, you've got your standard actions, your solve, your attack, but then you only get 2 actions.
Right.
So I just didn't feel like I could do a whole bunch.
Right. I'd almost rather have the pacing of, because we also there were multiple ways for us to lose in this. The issue has a lose condition, and then, I guess that's really it. But we have to solve to even have him come out of hiding or whatever, which is also kind of weird. You would think that doing the plot, I don't see... it'd be better if he, or the villains, in general, didn't have a scheming side, but because they already have the issue were schemes, and then they already have the schemes themselves, so it's like, just let us be able to fight him and give him a health pool, instead of both, because I feel like we're working extra hard because we have to do the schemes. Then they flip to something worse or something else. Then we have to deal with that. We have to deal with his lackeys. We have to deal with the randomness of his deck of putting out these minions and then stealing bystanders. All on top of he's still scheming. So then we have to finish the schemes, then scheme on him again. So it's almost like he essentially has
and the way they
40.
Yeah.
40 scheme is essentially what it is.
And then the way they encourage you to have to work toward getting a bigger dice pool for fewer attempts. Otherwise, you're taking the static damage.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to take that static damage.
Right.
I'd rather, so it's like, okay, I should just go for as many clue cards as I can get and go for just a fucking big-ass scheme and try and get it in one go.
And then that could be exciting because, the burst thing is in all their games and that could be fun. But, like, if you roll and you roll that, you don't get a single burst. That's a lot. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 scheme against the 40, or potentially just outright beating one. But then it's like, oh, but I still took 3 damage.
And it took me like 3 turns to accumulate that effect.
That's true, yeah. You'd have to be like, boom, 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 let me save all these bystanders, get 3 clue cards, hope they're the double 2, and maybe give you an ability that does it. So you spend all those actions just to potentially outright remove 1. So then you remove both of these. Now we can finally scheme against him. And so that's another 20 in Curtin's case. And it just feels like you do so much for so little payoff.
Yeah.
Versus like when we did Street Masters, the one that comes to the top of my head is the Weapons Master, the one word. And it's just like he just has a health pool against however many heroes there are.
Right.
And he has weapons and stuff and these caches and and then he has lackeys that are coming in and shooting at us, so we have to decide, do we want to go fight the lackeys that's sniping us, or do we want to try and go after him? Oh, he has a fucking, bulletproof vest on, so now he takes less damage. Like, it just feels so much cleaner here, and here, we're just over here like, ugh, can we, scheme once, or solve once, to even get anywhere?
Yeah.
And I don't think he advances so quick that, it feels like you have no chance. We got 16 damage on him, so a good hit would still beat him. I don't think the game is, I don't think it's unbalanced. I just think the pacing is off. Because of, like you just said, you have to work super hard. And then after you do all that solving, then it's like, oh, we did it. Nope, still gotta fight him.
Yeah.
And by that point, it's just you're just kind of burned out.
God, can we just whoop him already?
Right, and because in Marvel Champions, we'll have to play that game just so you can see the superiority of it. But you have a character, you have an alter ego mode and a hero mode that you can flop between. When you're in alter ego mode, so whenever the villain goes, he acts against each player. I only ever play that game at solo or 2. So he acts against each player. If you're in alter ego mode, then he schemes, and he puts thwart tokens, or threat tokens, on a major plot, which if that ever finishes, you lose. So you have 2 ways of losing. If the major plot card ever gets its max value of threat, or all heroes are defeated. So, but if you're in alter ego mode, then he does that. But if you're in hero mode, then he attacks you. So you actually have a balance of which mode you want to be in, where it's like, I'm really low on health, let me swap to alter ego because we're not super high on threat. So you have that to always take into consider. But the fact that in this game, it's almost weirdly reversed, where you're the one having to scheme or threat, and it's just weird. I don't know. In all those other games, I feel like a badass.
Yeah.
I feel like a badass cop, badass fantasy warrior.
Right.
And here, I just feel like a person with a cape.
I'm helping.
Yeah, and I don't know. The bystanders are just kind of whatever. You just go there to get clue cards, and they're super easy to save, but...
Yeah, but it takes a bunch of move actions, and a standard move is only 3.
Yeah.
And then short of using, a unique effect,
Yeah, where you get I think the feat effects they almost feel like a cop-out. Because it's like, if you don't want to take all that tons of damage, you have to remove one of your crucial cards. Like, this game would have been amazing with my Swift Justice cards, because whenever they're out, I can exhaust it to ignore the target's defense.
Nice.
Or whenever a showdown effect would show up, which I just realized we forgot to even draw those each time we attacked him.
Oh, shit.
That's another thing of just, oh, great, he also does more stuff. But I could discard this to ignore the showdown effect. But I had to get rid of that card because I was trying to solve, and I had to get rid of it to not take the damage. I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I'm actually disliking the flow of the actions. Because if you're in a superhero game, you should feel like a badass superhero, and I just don't. Yeah, that's it. That's all I can think of. You got anything else?
No, I don't yet, because like I said, I still have... I struggle with the criticisms. I guess it's functional. Yeah. But yeah, it's... I just didn't play one of their other games. I like their other games. I do. This one just kind of meh to me. So, can't say recommend. But, if you haven't played any other games,
if you haven't,
get one of the others. But I mean, you might actually like this one maybe a little more. I don't know. But it's definitely not their greatest work.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It is very weird where it's like, I would easily recommend their other games, but at the same time, you probably would like this more had you not played any of the other ones. So, yeah, I guess it's whatever you're wanting to get out of it. Like, these reviews are always weird because of that reason, where it's like there's inherently not a whole lot of things wrong with it, but it's in a bloated genre of superheroes, and it's just worse than other games, especially one of their other games. It's worse than one of their... It's like, it's fine if this is worse than some other company's games, like, I keep mentioning Marvel Champions. It's like, well, that's not their fault. That's
right.
But it's also worse than Street Masters,
yeah.
which is their, bread and butter, really. So, yeah. I mean, technically, this could also just be a shitty issue, like the Century Heist with curtains could just be super bad.
Yeah. And yeah, it's modular like any of the others.
Yeah,
but yeah, it just didn't come out. It's first impressions, not great.
Right. It's like, okay, maybe if we did automated chaos with Gorilla and Micro Guy, and we did Dowager, maybe that would be better. Or if Curtains was in that one, but because it is modular like that, it's too much to ever play to fully be like, well, we've tried every single combination. It's like, nah, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It is too modular in that sense. Well, that's disappointing. So, I was hoping whenever we played it with the actual, lore stuff, I was like, oh, it's gotta be better. No.
Yeah.
Not really. But, yeah. Alright, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Hour of Need?
I'll give it a 5.
That's...
Yeah, 5. Maybe a 6. Maybe someone else would like it a little more than I do. But, yeah, 5. It's a doable game.
Yeah.
Playable. Someone else wanting to play it, I'm like, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this game.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm giving it a 5 as well. I think it's average. Like you said, if someone were to be like, hey, you want to play this? I'd probably be like, sure.
Yeah.
The card system I still like. And it's like, okay, we'll see how Micro Guy plays, or Wyvern, or whoever it might be. Sure, why not? And who knows, maybe a different combination might be more thematic, or might be more creative and innovative, but I'm not going to spend the time to figure that out when I could easily figure out better combinations in their other games. I guess one highlight, it's a negative for me, but it could be for other people, is they have standalone expansions, which is good if you just want a particular type. If you're like, oh, I really want the fire and ice people, well, then you just get that box. But if you have the all-in, it's actually incredibly annoying because like whenever you're setting up a scenario, it says if you run out of bystanders. Well, if you have all of that, you have 40 bystanders, and you're like, okay, so then you have to weirdly go into the setup or the components and be like, oh, there's only supposed to be 8. So I guess I'll separate those out and have all these other tokens that don't do me any good. Or it's like, hey, if you run out of minion tokens, then it causes a crisis. So they have rules specifically designed for running out of tokens. However, if you have expansions, then theoretically you don't run out of tokens. So now you just have extra stuff. So not a huge fan of the standalone way that they kickstarted this.
Gotcha.
Like, because this was all a Kickstarter, but it's like, well, I went all in, but I got 4 different core sets, really.
Gotcha.
And so now I just have a bunch of shit. So yeah, that's just kind of a component annoyance. But yeah, I think Hour of Need I'm going to give a 5 out of 10, which is disappointing. But yeah, anyway, that's our thoughts on Hour of Need. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.